Today, familia, we are headed to the Deep South, to the first state that legally recognized Christmas as a holiday, the birthplace of Rosa Parks, and where the first 911 call was placed in this country, Sweet Home, Alabama. Treasure Hennessey was born in the midst of the hot summer in Jacksonville, Florida on June 26, 1986 to her parents, Kevin J. Hennessey Sr. and Leanne Home Franklin. I couldn't find much on her younger years to describe her childhood, but what I do know is at some point her and her family moved on over to Alabama, and she was a scholar and was very much involved in academic activities throughout her educational career from high school through college. Treasure graduated from Smith Station High School in Smith Station, Alabama with honors in 2004 as a member of the National Honor Society and was a member of the Smith Station High School Marching Band as color guard. To continue her education, she attended Chattahoochee Valley Community College in Phoenix City, Alabama, and completed courses in emergency management, criminal justice, and psychology. At some point, her interests changed and she headed on over to Georgia and received her master's degree at the Rivertown School of Cosmetology and Barbering. She especially loved barbering, so she decided to hone in on that as a career choice. Treasure had a reputation for her ability to connect with people of all walks of life, providing a safe, helpful, and loving energy that people gravitated towards. She had this desire to make people's lives better in any way that she could. Those who knew her say her spirit was a fearless and adventurous one. She was always curious about the world around her, so if she was curious about something, she'd use her love for obtaining more knowledge to find out more about any and everything at her fingertips. This meant frequent traveling and lengthening her educational feats, which included her acceptance into the United States Coast Guard. And I always said, if animals and babies were drawn to you, then you have a good heart. And Treasure, she loved animals and they loved her right back. She was just a worldly woman who loved the outdoors, collecting rocks, fossils, and had a love for the moon and the stars. A woman of many talents, she also loved creating art, and she was a music lover of all genres. And of course, as a people lover, her family was included in that. She was a heavy believer that family was everything, so they were her top priority. Especially her brother Kevin, whose nickname is Bubba, and her little sister Tiffany. Anytime they needed her, she'd come running. That's just how Treasure was. She was dependable. But the two people who needed her the most, that she moved mountains for, were her two little boys, Michael Gunn and Maverick Gage. Her sons were her entire world, and Treasure considered them to be her greatest accomplishments above all. Those who knew Treasure speaks to how amazing of a mother she was, and of course, as a scholar herself, she was all in when it came to her boys' academics as well. She was a PTA parent, attended every school event, sports activity, and social event for them. She always would assure them that she'd always love them to the moon and beyond. Now, in the summer of last year, June 2023, 37-year-old Treasure met a man, 39-year-old Bradley Wayne Stark, and they started dating shortly after meeting. And shortly after they began dating, she moved in with Bradley, but I'm not sure if she had her boys living with the two of them as well at that time. There isn't too much information on how she and Bradley even met or where, but what I can tell you is, soon after their relationship started, it became tumultuous, and they had this breakup to makeup thing going on between them. But not only that, the relationship quickly became pretty violent on Bradley's end. You see, it had been reported that Treasure made not one, but at least 2 calls against Bradley for being physically violent and aggressive towards her. However, although she made the calls, Treasure never signed off on any documents or warrants that would have caused an arrest for Bradley, so he was never arrested. It certainly was a depressing, sad time in Treasure's life at this point, when it should have been an easygoing one because Treasure was about to give her sons a sibling. She was actually pregnant with her 3rd baby. Bradley had even posted about it on his Facebook. On August 31st, 2023, he made a post saying, quote, "I hope we can work our relationship out, my love, and I can't wait to see our baby. I pray that God will bring us back together like we was," end quote. And accompanying this was some photos he posted of the two of them together, as well as a sonogram of their baby. But at this point, an 8-week pregnant Treasure had decided to move out of Bradley's home to avoid any further contact with him. She had enough of the broken promises and physical attacks and took refuge at a fire station in Fort Mitchell, Alabama, which also housed women who were victims of violence from their loved ones. Now, here's the thing about Bradley. You see, just before he met Treasure, Bradley had actually just finished serving 14 years of a 16-year sentence he did for the homicide of his ex-girlfriend. He was released on June 2nd, 2023 for weapons charges and manslaughter in the 2008 shooting death of his then-girlfriend, 21-year-old Crystal Bailey. Apparently, a then 25-year-old Bradley shot Crystal during a domestic dispute, which ended her life in Phoenix City, Alabama. In 2010, he pled guilty to the charges, which led to his sentencing. Now, being that he only served 14 years of the 16-year sentence, this meant he had 2 years remaining on either parole or probation. I say either because the reports on the story, they use both terms depending on which article you read. And I don't want to say one thing if it's the other. If you know better than I do what the correct term is, feel free to fill it in as you listen to the story, or you can even drop it in the comments. But moving along, with all that being said, Bradley did fear that since Treasure felt the need to hide from him somewhere, and there were already a couple of DV calls against him by Treasure, he was assuming that she was going to put in another report on him, and this time actually pursue an arrest warrant against him, which would have disrupted his freedom and put him back in jail for the remainder of his sentence. So Bradley felt like he needed to take matters into his own hands. Just one day after making that Facebook post professing his love for his girlfriend and their unborn child, on Friday, September 1st, 2023, Bradley found out the location of the fire department that Treasure was staying at. How did he find her? Reports don't say, but Bradley staked outside of the firehouse she was staying at, watching her come in and out that entire day. And finally, in the evening hours, when Treasure was about to make her way back into the fire station, Bradley hopped out of hiding and ambushed her. He stabbed Treasure several times, taking her life to silence her forever. At approximately midnight on Saturday, September 2nd, 911 dispatchers received a call about a body found at the fire station. Treasure was found with multiple stab wounds and pronounced deceased at the scene. After taking Treasure's life, Bradley moved her car behind a nearby barn to conceal it before fleeing the scene in his car. Thankfully, it didn't take too long for authorities to catch up with Bradley, as he was found in a hotel on Sunday, September 3rd in Columbus, Georgia, then was taken into custody. Upon his arrest, investigators discovered a knife that they believe was used in Treasure's homicide. Bradley was to be extradited back to Russell County within the following few days. The sheriff of Russell County said Bradley was facing capital homicide charges for the deaths of Treasure and her unborn baby, which in the state of Alabama can be life in prison or the death penalty. He was also facing a fleeing and eluding charge after he attempted to evade capture. But in a wicked turn of events, Bradley had been able to evade further punishment by law because Bradley cowardly decided to take his own life. On Sunday, September 17th, 2023, Bradley was found in his cell deceased just before 2 a.m. at the Russell County, Alabama jail, according to reports. He was found unresponsive, and while life-saving measures were taken in an attempt to revive him, it was too late. The night before, it was reported that the jail deputies had last checked on Bradley at approximately 11 p.m. Saturday. After that, it was said that Bradley was on the phone with some girlfriend for about an hour, which started around midnight. Then he sent a text to his mother around 1:20 a.m. Sunday. But when deputies were conducting a head count That's when Bradley's lifeless body was discovered. They did find a note on the wall taped by a band-aid, but officials have declined to release the specifics of that letter, and the way that he decided to take his own life has not been revealed either. Bradley had been extradited to the Russell County Jail on September 6th, where he was placed on watch because of the severity of the charges, according to what Sheriff Heath Taylor said. But he was removed from watch on September 9th after being cleared by a psychiatrist. However, unfortunately, something like this would have never been able to be predicted. My heart goes out to the loved ones of Treasure Hennessey, especially her 2 little boys. They'll never be able to meet their baby sibling or spend the rest of their life celebrating holidays, birthdays, or any more academic achievements with their mother, their rock, their whole life. I'm not sure if Treasure knew of Bradley's past, but knowing that she always had this thing in her heart where she felt like she could help people and love on them, no matter what walk of life they came from, it might not be a stretch to believe that she just may have knew something about his past, even if it wasn't everything. I mentioned earlier how Treasure loved people deeply, so I'm not surprised to know that she fell for Bradley so quickly and was more than willing to welcome life into this world with him. But when he showed his true colors, Treasure did her part. She got away from him as soon as she could. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to keep him away. Bradley had not a single regard for human life, not crystals, not treasures, and clearly, certainly, not even his own. If you or anyone you know are experiencing violence with a loved one, please call the National Hotline at 1-800-799-7233 or go to thehotline.org. All calls are toll-free and confidential. The hotline is available 24/7 and available in more than 170 languages. Rest in heavenly peace, Treasure Hennessey. May your spirit linger on with your loved ones forever.